4,951 is the number of pictures that I have stored on my phone, and the number of pictures that I actually remember and that I look at 0. And I don't know about you, but that feels really dissatisfying to me, and perhaps you recognize yourself in this little example of mine. And today I wanted to talk to you about how I try to overcome that and how I try to make memories in a new way using my art. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Anastasia. This is Skalda, and I'm an artist, and on this channel I usually make speed paints and invite you to relax a bit with me and to listen to some nature sounds while you watch me paint and watch my art process. But today I wanted to do something else. One of the goals of this channel is also to embark on a journey of a slower living, and art is my way of trying to achieve it. So last year I went to Italy, and while I took some pictures there that I feel a connection to, most of them feel really forgettable. It feels more like a fast food way of making memories. So this year I decided to do it differently, and I went to Italy again. I decided to use a sketchbook, which, as we know, is an artist's best friend. But to be quite honest, I've struggled with sketchbooks throughout my whole life, and in all honesty, I've never used them. I know, so don't be like me. Don't do it like I did it, but I've actually started my very first sketchbook now. It always felt like a drag to me, you know. It always felt like something that I had to do, at something that I was forced to do, not something that I actually wanted and enjoyed. And that changed for me a lot during this trip. It was a really great week. I really tried to live in the moment and notice the small things about my surroundings. I looked through some stained windows and then appreciated the light that came through them, illuminating the dust particles, and I also watched the shadows on the floor. I watched some turtles, and I learned to use a mocha maker, which felt really nice and much more enjoyable than just pressing a button, you know, and getting coffee out of a machine. The same thing I attempted to do with my sketchbook. I decided that instead of just taking those soulless pictures, I would make a sketch. And I did only one. I didn't have time to make more than that. And still, it feels somehow more satisfying than just pressing a button on my phone, you know. I just took my watercolors and my ink pen, and if you know me, if you know this channel, then you also know that that's absolutely my favorite way to paint, and just sat down and I sat in the evening sun while the shadow danced on my sketchbook and worked on this little painting of mine. I'm fairly happy with how it turned out, even though that was actually the first time I've attempted a sketch of architecture. But in all honesty, it wasn't about producing good art. It was about making a memory that I could revisit. There were other paintings that I made during this trip that I wouldn't consider good art. So we stayed at a holiday apartment, and I found some really old gouache paints in one of the cupboards. Really old. I couldn't even tell you how old they were. Decades old. Stone hard. there was no white, and I had to really improvise to be able to paint what I wanted to paint. But I made some art of the surroundings of this little apartment, and I didn't take one picture. This memory exists only in the form of 2 pages in the sketchbook. And I also went to the beach with those really old gouache paints during sunset and attempted to paint the water and the sunset, and by the end of it I couldn't even see colors anymore because everything was gray and green and I barely saw what I was painting. And I wouldn't say that it turned out really well. It's also very, very long since I've last used wash paints, and it showed. And still, I'm so happy that I did it because it just feels personal. It feels like a memory. And when I look at those 2 landscape paintings, I really feel the mood of those hours on the beach, of this evening hour during sunset, while I sat there with my loved ones and painted. So the sketchbook became something more than just a place or a tool with which I practice, but rather something more like a diary, a memory keeper, if you will. It feels more than just an obligatory practice. And aside of that, it really helps me to connect with my surroundings, and that's what it's all about. And it really helped me to start to notice some small things that I've never focused on, like how the light shines through some burgundy leaves and how it illuminates them. That's something that's so casually magical, and something that I wouldn't even have noticed before. Now I make a point of not only noticing those things, but also to capturing them in my art. So I hope you can connect with this little story of mine. Perhaps you also feel like you have too many pictures on your phone, like you're constantly making new ones, but it feels like nothing. And perhaps you, like me, struggle with starting a sketchbook and sticking with it. So that was a way for me to change 2 habits all at once, and perhaps it's something that you can relate to as well and can use as well. And if so, then I'm really happy that I could help you. Thank you for watching, and if you're interested in watercolor and ink art, if you're interested in just art in general, if you look for some calmness in this really overloaded and fast-moving internet space or life in general, then I think this might be the right channel for you. And well, if you enjoyed it, then I hope to see you again. Check out my other videos and subscribe perhaps so you don't miss anything new. And I say goodbye to you until then.